I almost kicked out my autistic child for acting like a kid again. Turns out, they were saving our family from falling apart. I need to get this off my chest because I'm seriously at my breaking point. So picture this. I'm a 50-year-old dad and my kid, 24, just did a total 180 on me. Like, we're talking full rewind back to childhood, and I'm freaking out. Let me set the scene. Growing up, my kid was super dependent on us because they're autistic. Their mom, my ex, went way overboard with the protecting. Kept them in this bubble, away from everything. But you know how life works. You can't shield kids from everything. They still got picked on, even by younger kids, which was rough to watch. Things got messy in middle school when their mom and I split up. My kid took it really hard, stopped going to school, got super depressed. I tried my best, homeschooling them for a while before finding this small private school. I thought, hey, maybe they'll make some friends there. Spoiler alert, didn't happen. High school and college? Same story. No friends, couldn't connect with anyone their age. Here's where it gets wild. My kid's been living with me since my ex had some anger issues. We were making progress. They got a part-time job, started learning basic life stuff their mom never taught them. Everything was going okay until last month. Their mom's relative had this medical emergency, so my kid went to stay with her for a bit. No big deal, right? Wrong. They came back last week, and it's like someone hit the reset button. They quit their classes, basically ghosted their job, and now they just lie in bed watching Bluey all day. Bluey. I tried being nice about it. Hey, wanna do something? I'm tired, they say. Tired from what? Watching TV all day? Then yesterday, I lost it. And boom, full-on childhood tantrum. Screaming, kicking, the works. Years of therapy, all that progress. Gone in a month. Now I'm back to counting pennies, wondering how I'll make ends meet. I hate saying this, but if things don't change, they're going back to their moms. I can't do this again. I just can't. Anyone else deal with something like this? What happened during that month at their mom's? The relative didn't die, so I'm completely lost here. Help me out. My adult kid went to stay with their mom for a month and came back acting like a child again. Now I'm stuck and don't know what to do. My kid finally opened up, and I wish they hadn't. The stuff that went down at their mom's house is way worse than I imagined. Remember that family emergency? Turns out their mom's sister was in the hospital because of a suicide attempt. I found this out when my kid had another meltdown, but this time they just broke down crying instead of lashing out. They spent that month watching their mom spiral completely out of control. She'd swing between sobbing about her sister and screaming at my kid for not helping enough. The whole time, my kid was trying to handle everything. Cooking, cleaning, dealing with hospital visits, and managing their mom's episodes. They even caught her trying to hurt herself one night. The real kicker? Their aunt started improving, but their mom got worse. She kept saying stuff like, "You're just like your aunt, you'll probably try to kill yourself too, and this is what happens when you're not normal." My kid was already dealing with their own mental health stuff, so hearing this from their mom? It destroyed them. I feel like such an idiot now. Here I was, getting mad about Bluey and them staying in bed, when they were actually processing some serious trauma. They told me watching kids shows helps them feel safe when everything gets overwhelming. It's like their brain just shuts down sometimes, and they need something simple and positive to focus on. We had this long talk about everything. They admitted they're terrified of ending up like their aunt or their mom. The job and school stuff? They couldn't handle it anymore because every little stress feels like it could be the thing that pushes them over the edge. They're scared of being alone because what if they get those thoughts too? I called their therapist right after our talk. Got an emergency session scheduled for tomorrow. Also reached out to my ex's brother. Turns out he had no idea how bad things were getting with his sister. He's stepping in to help with her situation now. My kid asked if they could stay with me longer, maybe take a semester off to focus on getting better. How could I say no? We're working on a new routine together. They're going to help me with my small business from home. Keeps them busy but isn't too overwhelming. Baby steps, right? The real gut punch was when they said, "Dad, I thought about not coming back here at all." They meant permanently. That's when it hit me. My kid wasn't being lazy or difficult. They were fighting to stay alive. I've got a lot to make up for. My ex needs serious help, and my kid needs a safe place to heal. We're taking it one day at a time. Sometimes they still hide in their room with Bluey, but now I bring them tea and sit with them for a bit. Yesterday they actually smiled while telling me about their favorite episode. Looking back at my last post, I feel awful about threatening to send them back to their moms. Talk about missing the bigger picture. Some of you called it in the comments. There was definitely more going on than I realized. Thanks for making me step back and think instead of just reacting. For now, we're focusing on the basics. Eating regular meals. Getting some sunshine. Taking their meds. Going to therapy. And yeah, sometimes watching cartoons together because honestly, Bluey's not half bad once you give it a chance. Keep us in your thoughts, Reddit. We've got a long road ahead, but at least now we're walking it together instead of me pushing from behind. I'll update again when I can, but right now I need to focus on being there for my kid. They're finally letting me help, and I'm not going to mess that up again. Either way, for those who asked, I had a serious talk with their work about taking medical leave. Their boss was surprisingly understanding. Sometimes people can surprise you in good ways too, you know? My ex showed up at our door last night, completely unannounced, totally out of it. She was rambling about taking our kid back home, saying they needed their mother and that I was poisoning them against her. The whole time, my kid was hiding in their room, texting me that they could hear everything. I tried keeping my voice down, telling her she needed to leave, but she wouldn't budge. Started banging on my kid's door, screaming about how ungrateful they were. That's when something in me just snapped. Not in an angry way, but in this weirdly calm I'm done with this circus way. I called the cops. Yeah, I actually did it. 15 years of dealing with her chaos, and I finally called them. The look on her face when she heard the sirens? Priceless. But here's the wild part. When the officers showed up, she completely switched. Started acting all sweet and confused, saying she was just checking on her baby. Classic manipulation. The officers weren't buying it. Turns out, she'd driven 3 hours to get here, and her brother, the one helping with her situation, had reported her missing. They took her to the hospital for evaluation. Found out later she'd stopped taking her meds weeks ago. Here's where it gets interesting. My kid actually came out of their room while the cops were still here. Instead of having a meltdown like I expected, they walked right up to one of the officers and said, "I want to file a report about what happened at my mom's house last month." Just like that. No hesitation. The officer took their statement right there in our living room. My kid told them everything. The emotional abuse, the threats, how their mom had been getting more unstable even before the aunt situation. They even mentioned some stuff I hadn't heard about yet, like how their mom had been sending them weird, threatening texts since they got back. You know what my kid said after the cops left? "Dad, I'm hungry. Can we order pizza?" Like they hadn't just done the bravest thing I've ever seen them do. We ended up having this weird celebration dinner. Pizza and Bluey, yeah, it's our thing now, don't judge. Their therapist says this whole thing might actually be good for their recovery. Something about reclaiming their power or whatever. All I know is my kid seems different now. Still watching cartoons, still having rough days, but there's this new strength? Like they finally believe they deserve better. We're moving forward with getting a restraining order. My kid's aunt, the one who attempted, actually reached out to help. She's doing better now and wants to testify about my ex's behavior. Turns out a lot of people saw what was happening but didn't know how to step in. The work situation's improving too. My kid's been helping with my business paperwork, and they're actually pretty good at it. Found some errors in my bookkeeping that saved me a bunch of money. They're talking about maybe taking some online business classes when they're ready to start school again. Yesterday, they asked if we could paint their room. Said they're tired of the colors their mom picked years ago. We spent the evening looking at paint samples and planning a whole room makeover. They want a reading corner with fairy lights. It's the first time they've shown interest in changing anything in months. Oh, and the best part? They're starting to talk about the future again. Not big plans or anything, just little stuff like maybe we could get a cat or I might try that new coffee shop next week. Baby steps, but real ones this time. My ex's brother keeps us updated on her situation. She's getting help, finally. Real help, not just the surface level stuff she's done before. My kid says they're not ready to see her, maybe not for a long time, and that's okay. We're all learning that boundaries aren't just walls, they're more like fences with gates you can open when you're ready. The house feels different now. Calmer. We still have rough days. This morning my kids spent 2 hours watching the same Bluey episode on repeat because they were stressed about their upcoming therapy session. But now I get it. Sometimes you need a safe space to hide while you gather your strength. Their therapist suggested we start a journal together, writing down one good thing that happens each day, no matter how small. Yesterday's entry was Dad learned how to make proper tea. Apparently I've been doing it wrong for years. Who knew? To everyone who commented on my last post saying I needed to listen more and judge less, you were right. Sometimes being a parent means shutting up and sitting in the hard stuff with your kid, even when every fiber of your being wants to fix it all. I don't know what's next for us. The restraining order hearing is in 2 weeks, and my kid's talking about maybe joining an online support group for adult children of unstable parents. But for now, we're just taking it day by day. Sometimes hour by hour. And yeah, I finally watched the full season of Bluey. That show's got layers, folks. Layers. Life comes at you fast, doesn't it? Remember when I was freaking out about my kid watching Bluey? Now we're dealing with something completely different. My ex is still in treatment, but her brother just dropped a bomb on us. Apparently, there's this whole family history of mental health stuff nobody ever told us about. The aunt who attempted? She's actually the third person in their family to try. Their mom, my kid's grandmother, did too, back when my ex was young. Suddenly all these pieces are falling into place. Why my ex was so overprotective, why she freaked out about our kid being autistic, why she kept them so isolated. She was terrified history would repeat itself. But here's the real kicker. My kid's been doing amazing since everything went down. Like, seriously amazing. Remember that business stuff they were helping me with? They've basically reorganized my entire filing system, set up some fancy spreadsheet that actually makes sense, and found enough tax deductions to cover their therapy for the next 6 months. Who knew my chaotic kid had a secret talent for numbers? The other day, they came into my office. Yeah, my garage is an office now, living the dream, with this whole presentation about turning my one-man handyman business into something bigger. They had charts and everything. Charts. My kid who couldn't handle grocery shopping 3 months ago is now throwing around terms like market analysis and service expansion. We had this moment where they were excitedly explaining something about digital invoicing, and I just started laughing. They got all defensive like what? I did research. And I had to explain I was laughing because they reminded me so much of myself at their age. Before life got complicated, when I was just a guy with big dreams and a toolbox. The restraining order went through, by the way. The judge took one look at the text my ex had sent and was like, yep, approved. My kid didn't even have to testify, which was a relief because they'd been stressed watching the Sleepy Time episode of Bluey on repeat just thinking about it. Speaking of Bluey, I can't believe this is my life now. We've started this thing where we use episodes as metaphors for dealing with stuff. Having a hard day? That's a copycat kind of day. Need to face something scary? Channel your inner brave. My kid says it helps them explain their feelings when words are hard. Their therapist actually thinks it's pretty clever. The room makeover happened too. We went with this cool blue-gray color that changes with the light. The reading corner has these twinkly lights that make the whole room feel like some kind of cozy spaceship. My kid's been spending less time in bed and more time actually using the space, reading, drawing, even doing some online courses about business management. Oh, and we got the cat. Named her Bingo. Yeah, I know. She's this weird little calico who likes to sit on my kid's shoulder while they work. Sometimes I hear them talking to her about their day, explaining spreadsheets to her like she's their business partner. It's adorably ridiculous. Their aunt's been visiting, the one who's recovering. She and my kid have this connection now, talking about mental health and family stuff in ways I can't really understand but know are important. She brought over some old family photos the other day, and for the first time, my kid got to see what their grandmother looked like. They have the same smile. We're learning more about the autism stuff too. My kid found some online communities, started sharing their experiences. Turns out a lot of their regression after staying with their mom wasn't regression at all. It was autistic burnout from masking so hard during a crisis. Now they're learning to work with their brain instead of against it. The business is actually growing. My kids' ideas? They're working. We've got a website now, their design, a proper booking system, and I've even hired 2 part-time helpers. My kid manages the office side while I handle the hands-on work. We're like some weird father-child handyman empire in the making. Yesterday, they came to me with another spreadsheet, seriously, so many spreadsheets, showing how much money we could save if we moved to a bigger place with a proper office space. They had this whole plan worked out, including a cat enrichment area for Bingo. I pretended to study the numbers very seriously before asking if this was their way of telling me they're ready for a change. They smiled, that real smile that reaches their eyes, and said, "Dad, I think I'm ready for a lot of changes." So yeah, read it. That's where we are now. My kid's still autistic, still has hard days, still needs Bluey sometimes. But they're also turning into this incredible adult who sees the world in ways I never could. And me? I'm just trying to keep up while pretending I totally meant for all this to happen. Life's weird like that, isn't it? 1 minute you're posting about your adult kid watching cartoons, the next you're running a growing business together and having deep conversations with a cat named after a cartoon dog. By the way, anyone need any handyman work done in the greater Boston area? My kid says I should start networking more. See? I'm learning business terms too. Everything's changed, but in the best possible way. So, our business was doing great. Like, really great. Then my kid drops this bomb on me. "Dad, I think Mom might have been right about one thing." I nearly choked on my coffee. Turns out, all those hours they spent organizing our business, learning the ropes, it wasn't just about helping me. They had bigger plans. They found this old building up for sale. Used to be a community center that helped people with disabilities find jobs. It had shut down due to funding issues. My kid spent weeks putting together this insane proposal about turning our handyman business into something more. Get this, they want to create a program that trains autistic adults in trade skills, business management, and all the stuff they wish someone had taught them. At first, I thought they were just dreaming big. Then they pulled out this massive presentation, complete with cat-themed slides, because Bingo is apparently our mascot now. They'd already talked to investors, reached out to autism advocacy groups, and even found some potential partners. They had everything planned down to the last detail, including how to make the workspace sensory-friendly. Here's the crazy part, it's actually happening. We got the building. The program starts next month. My kid, the same one who couldn't leave their room a year ago, is going to be running the administrative side while I handle the training. We've already got 15 people signed up for the first class. But wait, there's more. Remember my ex? She completed her treatment program and has been doing intensive therapy. Last week, she asked to meet my kid at their therapist's office. I was worried, but my kid said they were ready. You know what she did? She apologized. Like, really apologized. No excuses, no manipulation, just accountability. She told our kid about her own struggles, about how watching her sister and mother deal with mental health issues broke something in her. She admitted that her fear of losing another family member made her control and isolate our kid, which only made things worse. Then she did something that floored us both. She asked if she could volunteer at our new center, teaching art therapy classes. Turns out she's been taking courses for it during her recovery. My kid looked at her and said, "Only if you promise to let me run the business side. Your spreadsheets are a mess." They all laughed. Actually laughed. Together. We still watch Bluey sometimes, but now it's usually with Bingo curled up between us after a long day of work. My kid says they don't need it as much anymore. They've found other ways to feel safe. Like teaching our new trainees how to organize their tools, or designing systems that make sense to different kinds of minds. The aunt's doing great too. She's become our unofficial family historian, helping us understand our history so we can break the cycles. She and my kids started this blog together about mental health and neurodiversity. It's helping other families talk about the hard stuff. Yesterday, I watched my kid give a tour of our nearly finished center to some potential students. They were confident, passionate, and completely themselves, stimming and all. One of the students asked why they started this program. My kid pointed at me and said, "Because someone taught me it's okay to do things differently." I'm not going to lie, I cried a little. Okay, a lot. So here we are. My kids not fixed because they never needed fixing. They just needed space to become who they are. And who they are is pretty incredible. Our first class starts next week. My ex is bringing snacks, she's actually a decent baker when she's stable. The aunt's documenting everything for the blog. Bingo has her own office chair because apparently she's our HR department now. My kid? They just bought their first suit for the opening ceremony. It's got little cartoon dogs embroidered on the inside pocket. Because some things don't need to change. To everyone who followed our story, thanks. Thanks for calling me out when I was wrong, for supporting us when things were dark, and for being part of this journey. If you're ever in Boston and need a handyman who might change your life, well, you know where to find us. And yes, we're keeping the bluey posters in the break room. Some battles you just don't fight.